Welcome everybody. First things first, as always, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, please let me know you can see my charts clearly and you can hear me all right by letting me know how your day is going. And after confirmation, just so that I know I'm not sitting here talking to myself, because that has happened in the past, we can get started. Before anything, guys, the reason I have this up right now, right off the bat, is because I am actually in a bit of a short position right now. And I did lay it out in the Telegram channel. So for those of you guys who are interested in just kind of seeing how I'm looking at the markets, some trade setups I'm looking at, just kind of learning some of my favorite trade strategies and that sort of thing. You can scan the QR code. There's a link in the description down below and some steps there that you can get in there if that's something that interests you. This is a setup that I laid out early this morning. One of the setups I'm looking at, one of them is still far out there, but we'll get into that in a little second here. But yeah, basically we were getting up into my Fibonacci level here, which I laid out this morning. As I mentioned, my reasoning for that, obviously here, you guys, is I have my low and a lower low. Therefore, this is my confirmed lower high. So that's where I have a fib pull from. And notice we filled that pocket basically perfectly. Never quite hit the 886, but very close. I got a couple of my orders there. I have since canceled the rest of my orders because, you know what, this move is actually moving pretty nice so far. I have also kept the Telegram chat up to date with how I'm treating that position. Basically, I have already locked in some of my profits. I've also removed my risk completely from this position, so it's nothing but profits. Even if this reverses from here, you guys know how I am going to play that. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up before I start looking at more important levels here on the longer time frame. But guys, I mean, none of this should have come as a surprise. I had also mentioned, actually, I pointed this out as well in there, just to bring this up. Let's see, where was it? Right here. I had that exact setup laid out in the charts pretty much, where we basically had this type of a setup. Actually, no, sorry. It was this. I was looking at this lower high because we had a slightly lower low here, and we ended up just flirting along that 786 fib line, and I ended up taking a short on that as well and getting that nice move to the downside. Yes, eventually half the position, or I think it was about a third or 40% of the position left that got stopped at break even. But yeah, basically now we have this new setup. We set a new lower low, so I was able to pull another fib, and that's what led me to take this short here. Basically, nice, just a typical Stuber fib setup. We haven't quite hit my first target yet. So yeah, if we reverse right now, it is unfortunate. My profits would be a lot smaller than if we end up hitting my two targets, obviously. But we'll see, just because there is signs from the bulls that look pretty strong and pretty promising. So I do want to talk about the good as well with Bitcoin. But that's just one reason why I am very quickly updating my stop loss at this point. And my reasoning more so is if I zoom into the 1 minute right now, notice that we have another Stuber fib setup where we have our low here and we've broke it. So we have a lower low, and we have, oh, sorry, I am getting used to a new mouse, and it is so, it's just different. So anyways, after that structure break, we're pulling back now. We're getting towards that 786. So I would like to start seeing basically if the downtrend, if the bears are going to remain in total control, I don't really want to see us break this micro downtrend here. On top of that, you guys, if I bring up the MDX ALGO trend master indicator, we have been printing lower sell signals and lower buy signals now. So that's just another warning that the trend may be flipping to the downside, the fact we got a lower sell signal. So with that being a thing, basically pulling my fib from the highest point here, basically since we got the sell signal. So just kind of pulling from here, the top of the range. And I just don't really want to see this get invalidated. And if it does, then you know what? I'm willing to lock in the rest of my small profit here on the rest of my position and just wait and see what happens from there. I would consider playing another short, trying to take something like this. If we're going to get a retest up to that level, I would consider taking that. It's a little bit riskier as we keep testing that, you know, important level of resistance. The more we test it, the weaker it's going to get. So I would really like to see the micro trend bears kick into gear here and end up sending us lower, but we're going to have to see. Let me just bring that fib up once again. We could even, I don't know. I actually like using the higher fib pull. That would be a perfect 786, but I still like this just because it is the high point of this range here. So I'm going to leave it like that. With the stop loss, I always leave a little wiggle room above my 115. So yeah, if that gets invalidated, I'll lock in the rest of my profits off that position and we'll go from there. Now is where I want to start zooming out to things. So looking at the 4-hour here, just looking at a naked chart, we have a very similar setup to what I ended up taking on the 5-minute. It is pretty much exactly, in fact. Let me just zoom back out to the 5-minute here. But yeah, basically, if you look at this, we had our low, lower low, pull the fib from the lower high, and we end up getting back to the 786, 886. That's something that I'm strongly considering on the 4-hour, you guys. We have a very similar looking chart to this. So if we do end up breaking some of that resistance on the 5-minute, I totally see reasons why we could blast much higher. And that does not mean I'm bullish. We still have a downtrend. And guys, trust me, I want to be a moon boy again. It would be fantastic to see this market go parabolic. But just from a structure point of view, our lower high on the 4-hour is at 95K because we had our low here. We had our lower low here. This is the highest point between the two. That's not a bias. That is just structure fact. That is just where our lower high is on the 4-hour chart here. And one thing to consider, guys, is I know a lot of people say, oh, well, if you're in doubt, zoom out, right? When in doubt, zoom out. Unfortunately, guys, the more I zoom out, the more bearish I get. And I will get into that in a little second here. But yeah, a few setups I'm looking at here on the 4-hour. One would be, the fact that we did come down, or after setting this high here, we did set a slightly higher high. So technically, I would be considering playing along off of this purple box down here, or at least some sort of a hedge if I'm already in a short or something like that. But that is a level of interest for me on the 4-hour as far as a buy level. But yeah, like I said, this level on the 4-hour, this really from 91K up towards 93K. And then even, like I said, the actual lower high resistance is at 95. So anywhere, leave a little wiggle room there. Let's pull a fib, actually, because I think this is a very valid Stuber fib, and that's why that purple box is there. Really, up to 98K, there could be a liquidity grab. That could be a swing fail setup on the 4-hour. Yes, I know a lot of people would say, well, that's a huge move. Yeah, you missed it or whatever. Yeah, maybe I will miss part of the move, whatever. That's totally fine. But just as far as looking for obvious short levels, obvious sell levels, to me, this is where it begins, right around 91K. Again, that's if we smash through this resistance we're currently struggling with for the last few days. I still have my concerns about this, that we aren't even going to break this resistance. But yeah, as soon as we get kind of above that, I call it 86.5, I think it's a straight shot to 91 pretty much. And something else, just looking for additional confluence with that Fibonacci range, check out this trend line. If I zoom out to where we ended up topping this market cycle so far, which was on the 20th of January, Trump's inauguration date, which I had predicted well in advance that I thought that was a very good possibility. Since then, we've been in this downtrend. So if I bring out this trend line here where we've got some very nice touches, these ones are actually, well, very close, but whatever. That one is pinpoint accurate. This is a nice trend line, in my opinion. I could drop it very slightly, but that is a nice trend line that I'm watching on the downtrend. And the fact that it lines up very nicely with that Fibonacci pocket, that's just additional confluence that there's more resistance there than I'm even looking at with Fibonacci's, right? It's just another thing pointing out that there is possible resistance there. So this is one of those things. I am going to add an alert on this trend line to annoy me every minute. BTC for our downtrend. I want to be notified if we end up testing that line, because I would love to see a swing fail of that. I'm not looking at, as soon as we get above that line, I'm FOMO longing. I'm more so looking at if we end up getting into this pocket, I think it's a decent probability we're going to get rejected fairly soon. So I would be interested in laddering in some shorts. And if we end up getting a pullback and just getting some sort of a swing fail along this diagonal trend line while we're getting rejected at a Stuber fib like that, I would be looking at adding to my position and or just shorting the retest of this or whatever. But that would lead me to be very bearish on the trend again. Zoom out even further. Let's go with the weekly here. I'm actually going to remove this box for now. Basically, you guys know there's one very specific thing I'm looking for on the weekly chart, and that is my RSI divergence. I just want this to break. When that breaks, I think that'll be a very clear sign that we are going to make another push to the upside. But the fact that we have not broken this level, I mean, look how many times we tested it on this trend down over here where we had this little range here. Yeah, you can say, Stu, we ended up breaking out of that and you were wrong about it being bearish. Well, you know, we did get a move 30% to the downside. So I wouldn't say being bearish right here on this signal, this reversal signal here. I would not say that was incorrect. It was just short-lived. It was a 30% correction, got cut down by a third. And then when we end up breaking that RSI, we were ready to pump to the upside again, get our next leg up. And that's really what I'm looking at now. We had the same reversal signal. We had the same 30% correction to the downside. And now if we actually end up breaking this trend line on the RSI, I will flip my tune, you guys. I will be willing to accept the fact that I think the bulls are going to push us higher. Here is my concern, because like I said, when in doubt, zoom out. If I go out to the monthly, you guys, it's absolutely disgusting. Every time I look at this, I notice something more and more bearish about it. And right now, just these order blocks. And what I mean by an order block is basically the last level where you have the opposite moving candle, basically, where then you end up shooting to new lows, for example, right? So here, this green candle body would be my order block or breaker block, whatever you want to call it. Some sort of basically that's where the bulls lost their ground and the bears pushed lower from there. As soon as we ended up breaking that, that was a full on market reversal, you guys. Down here, that's where we flip that. It turned into resistance here, right? Because we lose that block, it ends up turning into resistance. When we get above that level and flip it into support, it was bull market on. The next cycle never really had a break or one to the downside because we never did break below this wick at all. But then on the downside in that bear market, we did get it again, right? We had that same thing where we have this green block here. We end up pushing new lows. When we reclaim that, we flip that box from resistance into support, and it was bull market on. The top of that bull market, we had the opposite, right? As soon as we got one that we were able to lose, because notice that this push to the downside, we never had one. There was no block on the way here. We never came close to this one here. But on the new push to the upside, this was the block that ended up pushing us towards new highs, even though it was short-lived. It was a swing fail, whatever. Had that same RSI divergence there. But what the point of this is, when we lost that block, we flipped that support into resistance. So again, that was bear market on. Down here, same thing. We get the green one. We end up breaking that block. We flip that resistance into support, and it was bull market on. Guys, what do we have now? For the first time since the FTX collapse, this is the first time we have lost this kind of structure. This is the second time in Bitcoin's history that it's even had this structure. All right, that's how big of a signal this is, that this is only the second time we've seen it. And last time we saw it, it was a good sign that, hey, the bear market was going to go for another year or so. So I don't want to say for sure that the bear market is here, because the market doesn't care what I think. Anything can happen. Bitcoin does not care what I think. But just looking at my probabilities here, there is some serious warnings in this chart. The fact that people are saying we have to go higher for whatever fundamental reasons and whoever's in power, it doesn't matter. Just from a chart perspective, if we get a bullish engulfing candle now, just like, you know, we had a bearish engulfing candle here, totally broke the structure, and that's what totally ruined this trend. Everybody stopped talking about the monthly chart after we got that, except for me. I am here to remind you guys. But if we end up getting a monthly candle that eclipses this and it is straight back into, you know what, we're up here, then I would be looking at a retest and longing the shit out of this, because I think that would be incredibly bullish. But as it stands right now, you guys, I can't lie to you. This, like, the people who are telling you that we have to go higher, we don't have to do anything. It's possible, right? That's the thing. I have my invalidations. As soon as that weekly signal breaks, I will be bullish and open to the idea that we could set new highs. As it stands right now, like I said, the further I zoom out, the worse the chart looks. And that's terrifying to me. Actually, it's not terrifying. It's exciting to me. But you know what I mean. It's quite concerning if you want to be bullish on the charts, basically. And again, guys, if you're not interested in the FOMO around fundamentals, you don't care about the news, you just want to look at chart structure and learn how I'm looking at the charts, some of my favorite trade strategies and so on. You guys, this trend has been quite predictable to me. Just because I'm not a moon boy, just looking at the structure for what it is and playing it and keeping emotions out of it. I was playing some longs too. Even when I wasn't bullish, I'm still playing longs because a trade setup is a trade setup. I don't really care. So I don't care which way the market's going. So if that's something that interests you, you want to get this insider educational content, this StuberFib video is actually public. It's on the Financial Summit page. It's also on my Twitter page. It's pinned to the top. But this guy right here, where I go more in depth into the structure, how I look at ranges, how I recognize when I can pull a StuberFib, etc., that is only available in my Telegram for you guys. And also my partners at BloFin until the 6th of April are hosting this wonderful deposit and trading bonus. Some nice prizes there. Obviously, it's actually just paid out in USDT if you read the small print, but it's a wonderful promotion. You get I know if you're ending up trading with some decent volume there's some huge prizes to be won there. So again, that does go, and as well, the deposit bonus, right? An additional 10%. So again, just one of those things that my followers get special treatment from BloFin because they appreciate you. I appreciate you. We'll keep pushing for that while you're trading under me. So guys, as far as that goes, I think you kind of understand what I'm seeing in the markets, why I have my concerns. Again, we have this structure break, even on the 1 minute or the 5 minute, I guess. Let's check the 1 minute. Same thing. We didn't have a new lower low other than this guy. So yeah, the same structure stands here on the 1 minute. So yeah, you guys kind of know what I'm planning to do with the rest of my position here. Hopefully some of you guys in the Telegram were actually able to catch this. I will go through a couple questions really quickly if there is some in the chat. Like I said, guys, I do actually have to get going quite soon here. But I just really wanted to at least get a little bit of a stream in here for you guys because I know we got a nice bounce. I know it looks very good for Bitcoin, but when you really zoom out and start looking at levels, there hasn't been anything on the bearish side from the mid to long term that's been invalidated. Yes, the short term, there's some nice price action. That is both directions, but yes, there is some nice bounces on the shorter time frame, but we're not even close to breaking the 4-hour structure. We have to break above 95K like I was talking about on this chart over here. So yeah, I think there's a little premature celebrations because when you look at structure for what it is, we're still setting lower lows and lower highs, and that's all there is to it, unfortunately, for now. But yeah, let me just catch up on some chat here. Audio is good. Yeah, I guess I should have actually paid attention before I started ranting. Hey, time to go full bull mode. I don't agree with that quite yet, but I'm willing to. I mostly want that weekly chart to invalidate my theory because, guys, I laid out that trade setup when I was talking about this double top with this exact bearish divergence. It was December 23rd. It was the day before Christmas Eve. December 23rd, I outlined that I thought this was going to be a thing, that I thought we were going to get this exact divergence that I've backtested the shit out of years ago. And it's one of my favorite reversal signals. And like I said, the last 2 times it's played out on the weekly, it's got a 30% move to the downside. So after that breaks, just like back here, you're not catching the bottom, but as far as the next pump goes, I mean, it was still a nice move. And rather than just FOMOing and trying to catch a knife and longing into resistance and all those bad habits, I would rather wait until we have some sort of a confirmation because I still have my spot bags, you guys. That's the thing. The only thing is I'm willing to trade the downside. It's not that I'm bearish on crypto as a whole. I'm just looking at the charts for actually wanting to make money. I will trade either direction. And right now, even though I'm trading the 1 minute and the 5 minute, I still feel I have a bigger chance of catching a nice running position to the downside because of all the macro bearish signals. I see a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's so many things right now that people are misunderstanding that we could invalidate all my bearish theories any day, and I'm willing to accept that. It's just that I trade the charts that are already there. I don't trade on a feeling of, well, what if this breaks out? Well, if it breaks out, I'll start longing and longing pullbacks and that sort of thing. But as it stands, I'm going to trade the charts for what is there. I don't trade news. I don't trade speeches. I don't trade tweets. I just trade the market structure that's on the charts. Draw a diagonal trend line under candles from 2022 bottom to current price, still holding support just about from 2022 on the weekly chart, I'm guessing. From where we've bottomed. This is a logarithmic chart. I will check both. But if you're looking at something like this. Yeah, and you know what? I totally agree with finding a bounce at that level. But I have a feeling since we have these bearish signs, we've broke macro structure on the weekly and the monthly. I have a feeling that if we end up bouncing off this support, that we get something like this, get a new Stuber fib, and then see something like this. I am happy to be wrong about this. It's good to look ahead and be ready for anything. But I totally see this downtrend, or this uptrend rather, that you're pointing at, and I agree with it. And one of the reasons I agree with it wholeheartedly is because I've been pointing out since we dropped this range that I would, if this was a 5-minute chart or a 1-minute chart, I would be pulling a fib from right here because we lost this range up here. I would be pulling a fib from the previous range, the previous low, and it would look something like this. And that lines up very close with that trend line you're talking about. If we were to come down in the next, even a month, we could easily get some sort of a swing fail off this, hit the 786 even, and then carry on to the upside. Or that could also be seen as a warning sign that that trend line is starting to break, and then we set a lower high and we actually break it. All those theories at this point are just theories, right? I mean, it's way more important to be able to react to the price when you have certain things happening. That's when you take your trades. I mean, to a certain point, yes, it helps to be able to predict things, but if you don't know how to play those reactions, it doesn't matter. And I know I've said this many times that you can have two people, you could literally enter the position going the opposite directions at the exact same time, and you could both win your positions. You could both lose your positions. All that matters at the end of the day is how you actually execute your trades, and having an actual repeatable trade setup that you can, play time and time again and keep a level head and not trade with your gut feeling, right? And that's exactly what, I show my trade strategies, kind of what I look at, how I look at structure, how I pull my fibs and that sort of thing in my Telegram, right? Just because I love trading fibs because they're so systematic. They really help me keep my emotions at bay. They help point out levels that remind me, hey, I should be taking profits. They remind me to not look to play into a FOMO position, right? If someone was looking at, hey, if we lose these lows, I'm shorting. They see the lows, they short immediately. I would rather wait for that pullback myself. So you get way better entries, way tighter losses, just a more controlled setup. And that's what I love about Fibonacci's. Mihao, did you catch that short as well? I'm pretty sure you're in the Telegram, you were saying. I know I pointed it out earlier this morning. Actually, just curious, is anybody in the chat? Did anybody take that signal? Just curious. See, the thing is, I agree that a lot of people are starting to be bearish right now, and understand I have been a perma bear for 2025, but there was a good 2-year period where I was mega bullish the entire time. When we were bottoming and when we got up to, I think it was when we were at 18 or 20K, I said that I was very vocal about thinking the bottom was in or very close to being in. I was bullish right up until basically we started getting those weekly signs, because that's such a specific pattern that I've back tested the shit out of. I've back tested multiple years of data with that exact trade setup. It's my highest success rated reversal signal. I would short it on every single time frame ever. I shorted on the 1 minute, I shorted on the 5 minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the weekly. I short it every time I see it. It's a very specific double top with a very specific regular divergence, but it's from overextended. When those things line up, I'm very confident about that setup, and that's exactly what made me be bearish here. So I've been bearish since 110K, whereas a lot of people waited for us to be down at 80K to start getting bearish. And yes, I agree completely that so many people are starting to get bearish that I think we will see a nice big bounce soon. And like I said, on the 4 hour, that could take us right up to 91K, all the way up towards even 97K. I'm totally open to that idea, but that still wouldn't be bullish to me. That unless we're actually closing candles above 95K, we still have bearish structure on the 4 hour. So it's not that I'm bearish for no reason. It's not a gut feeling. It's because the structure hasn't changed. What led me to be bearish at 110K is still valid. Nothing has changed, and that's why I still have the same opinion. But every trend breaks, right? I can't wait to be a moon boy again. Honestly, my spot bags look like shit just like everyone else's, right? It's just that trading to the downside has been much more profitable since the 20th of January, if you ask me. But it all depends on the trader. Some people don't like shorting. Some people only want to long, and some people who are longing this are still making money, right? It all comes down to their the way they're executing their trades. That's all that matters with predictions, is actually putting it to use and reacting when certain things are met. Good morning, Brian. Nice to see you here once again. Adrian took it. Nice. Good to see. Dan Rab took the signal. Nice, nice. Adrian, 2 of them. Mihao got one. Nice. Jarek took it. Blockchain took it. Nice. I love to see that some of you guys have been finding value in that then, and, you know, seeing that set up ahead of time like that, right? That's great. Love to see it, guys. Obviously, just like any trader, I mean, there's going to be losses, but that's exactly why we have the fib pullbacks and stuff, right? It's controlling those losses as well. And like I said, just having a repeatable, tradable system, right? Like, we're still working our way down since we got our tag of that level. And like I was saying, that chart on the 5 minute looks exactly like this 4 hour chart, you guys. It's literally the exact same setup with the same lower low, the same lower high. So that's why I still half think that we're going to end up here. The only reason I think we might not is because the monthly and the weekly look so bad to me that I don't know if the 4 hour is going to gain momentum. I'm open to the idea. Like, if we end up going up in here, it's not like I'm going to be trying to short this whole way up, right? It's just the fact that if we break through this resistance, I'm going to be willing to wait for a short setup up high, or any sort of lower time frame looking more for a scalp. Or maybe I'll be scalping the long side if we end up breaking above this. It all depends how the charts are forming and where I can find that setup on what time frame and stuff like that, right? So I do not care which direction we go. I just want it to stay volatile. I saw a question earlier and I forgot to answer it. Do you use cross or isolated? I personally use isolated leverage only. Cross scares the shit out of me because I'm worried that I will misunderstand something. I love using isolated, and I set my stop losses right when I enter my positions. I want to know with isolated positions, you know exactly worst case scenario. with cross, if you got some sort of a crazy liquidation, slippage kind of a thing, your one position may not be worst case scenario. It may dig into your other stuff. I don't understand cross enough. It also depends what assets you're trading, right? Cross on low volume pairs would be absolutely terrifying, because I've had that happen where you're trading a low volume pair and all of a sudden you get crazy slippage. Like I've mentioned this on some of my streams before. One of the reasons I use isolated and why I'm happy I do, I had a position, it was on a different exchange that I used years ago, but I had my stop loss and it was either a 5 or a 20% profit, and my position got liquidated. Not just stopped out, it got liquidated. And that was with a stop loss and a profit, because there was low volume and there was some crazy slippage. And had that been cross, I don't know for sure what would have happened. So me personally, I always use isolated. Guys, I'm actually going to be doing a bit when I get some time and do a little digging. I do want to make a little bit of a BloFin tutorial talking about leverage, the different kinds of leverage, the different kinds of order types I use, going over risk management, position sizing a little bit, and that sort of stuff. That is something that will be coming to my Telegram followers fairly soon. I'm hoping later this week, maybe early next week. But yeah, that is something that I'm planning. Just so you know, I've had popular demand. A lot of people kind of want something like that. And since that's the exchange I'm using, I'll just hop on a demo account and set some random orders and stuff, the types of orders that I'm talking about in my Telegram and stuff, because I often talk about, setting trigger orders to take partial profits with a stop loss and stuff like that. So that's something I want to kind of go into. So that will be coming to you guys fairly soon. It is happy St. Patrick's Day. Should be drinking green beer right now. Where would the next bear market low be? Interesting question. And again, this is so early to be making these predictions. So I do want to make this clear that anything can happen. And also this will change if we end up taking a next leg higher. But just if this happens to be the bear market, again, a huge if, I would expect us to drop to about 35K. And I know a lot of people are going to laugh at that and think that can't happen. But if this were a typical setup, I would be looking for the 786, 886. And before you say that that can't or won't happen, let's just go into every single previous market cycle since. That was one, boom, right into that fib pocket. This was a market cycle, boom, right into that fib pocket. Here was a market, well, here even COVID tested it. So that wasn't a market cycle, but it was a bear market sized move. Boom, hit that fib pocket. The overall bull market also hit the 786 here. So if this ends up being the bear market, it would take a long time. Either it would happen very quickly where we would get to that level and we can get it over with, rip that Band-Aid off, or it takes a year or two to get there. And if that's the case, then so be it. But yeah, if this is a bear market, that's kind of the level that I'd be expecting. 35 down to 26K. I think it would be more around the 786, maybe even slightly higher this time. Maybe 40K, but yeah, it would be significantly lower than we are now, in my opinion. I know it feels like this cycle should be different. There's way bigger players in the space. You have to understand that every single market cycle that Bitcoin has had exponentially larger players in the space. You need exponentially larger players in the space every cycle to get a similar type of market cycle. And that actually brings me to my next concern, that who is going to be our next big wall wave of money, of new money, new bigger money? I mean, BlackRock's in it, governments are in it, banks are in it. Yeah, they're going to accumulate more, but I have a sneaking suspicion that volatility after this cycle is going to become a lot tamer. I'm happy to be wrong about that, but if not, at least there's higher leverage available. But that's just a gut feeling, right? That's all theoretical at this point. If I get filled on my first two fib levels, do I have a stop set above the 115? Yes, except I also have more orders. The 786 is usually where I start my orders, and I usually ladder in. Like, I have orders from the short that I took earlier that did not fill. I just ended up taking this one. I had another one that just got missed. And then I had another order up here, and I had another order up here. And since we ended up moving, I ended up taking some profits. I removed the rest of my positions. My stop loss was at break even. I removed all that risk once I started taking profits. But yes, I like to ladder in. And honestly, I like to ladder in heavier as we get closer to my invalidations. So this position's smaller than I wanted because I only got my first order here. But basically what I usually do lately is I'll do more like 20% of my position, another 20%, and then 30. So it really helps bring my average entry way up. So, and guys, not to confuse you, that doesn't mean I'm doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on my position. That means I have a position size in mind and I'm breaking it up. Yes, my gains might be significantly smaller than I was hoping, but at least my risk is managed tightly. So that's kind of how I treat my laddering orders for the most part. Also, sometimes if it's extra volatile or the range is extra large or whatever, sometimes I'll consider looking for a swing fail as well, where I'll just be like, you know what, I don't even want to play this super fib. I'm not feeling that risky right now or whatever, or I'm just not watching closely, whatever the case. Then I can set a level like this with an alert on it. And then if we end up testing that level, I can see what the reaction is. If it's going to be a fake out where it just grabs some liquidity and it's more of a double top, stuff like that. So there's a few different setups that I look for around those levels, but basically the point of the Stuber fibs is to really make myself wait for a deep pullback, whether it's looking for a long or a short, just looking for almost a full retrace before getting into that position, just to keep the loss that much smaller. I'm actually sorry, I'm not going to look at Ethereum because I do have to take off in a couple minutes. And I just want to answer the other questions about what I'm already looking at here, because I would have to get in the mode of looking at Ethereum here. What level of leverage do I use? It depends. Usually when I'm trading altcoins, it's usually about 10x leverage. And okay, guys, I use high leverage. I want to make this clear. I do use high leverage, but I understand position sizing. And as long as you understand your position sizing and you know how much actual money you're going to lose if you're wrong, it's kind of a thing of preference. Sometimes I don't mind having higher leverage where I'm tying up less of my capital so I can play with more elsewhere or whatever. But then it's just a smaller amount of margin on a larger leverage amount. And it depends. Like if I get into a swing fail rather than a Stuber fib, for example, then the risk is even that much tighter. The stop loss is a lot closer. So in that case, I can crank up the leverage a little bit too. With Bitcoin, like when I'm trading the 1 minute, I'm usually at like 69x leverage. If I was looking at the 4 hour, I'd be looking at more like 5x leverage. So it really depends, right? It depends how tight my invalidations are. Because if I'm looking at a 1 minute setup and my invalidation is very close, then I can crank up the leverage and it's still a very small loss if it happens, right? So really depends on the setup and how volatile the market is. If it's way more volatile, then sometimes the ranges are a lot bigger than they look, and sometimes you got to tone down your leverage as well. Love the constant reminders to pay yourself. It actually helped a lot to get in the habit to move stop loss into break even or profit and take partial profits on the way. Used to be a tough one for me. Honestly, I agree 100%. And that's why I say it a lot, is because I say this quite often in my streams, is that getting into a position that is winning is actually quite easy to do. You can basically enter a position and it can be winning for a short amount of time. Actually hitting that take profit button is probably one of the hardest things to do in trading. And it's still one of the hardest things for me to do. And I mean, I still, that's why I use fibs, because it reminds me that I have to. But like, I still find that difficult to not get greedy. And honestly, it sounds silly, but hitting that button for most people, I would say, is probably the hardest thing to do. Will I short AI 16Z again? I'm not sure. It started invalidating some of my bearish theories and stuff. When I ended up getting stopped out at break even on the rest of that one, I haven't really looked at it since. And Bitcoin was kind of getting to some levels I was watching, and I was teaching a couple people some things. So I've been kind of busy, and I haven't been looking at altcoins as much. I will start looking at them again. It's just, yeah, I've just been busy the last few days. And honestly, I do prefer Bitcoin. It does have the better volume. It's just, I've looked at it way more. So I just kind of, I feel like you start to learn how charts move, I guess. I don't know. I do prefer Bitcoin. I feel like there's less slippage. There's always good liquidity there. The indicators, they just work better if there's more volume and stuff like that, right? Actual trading going on. Anyways, guys, I think that's all I wanted to go over today. Hopefully you guys did find this stream useful. Thank you so much for being here with me, you guys. If you did appreciate this video, do me a favor, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these streams. And as mentioned, if you do want access into my Telegram idea, just where I share some of my trading ideas, some charts I'm looking at, just my overall thoughts on the market, some of my favorite trading strategies. And yeah, just looking at market structure, no FOMO, no emotions attached, not looking at fundamentals, not looking at what's going on in the news, just straight up charts. So if that's something that interests you, scan the QR code or click on the link and follow the steps in the description down below. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.